A week later, the eldest son came back for the cards. I had them ready. The moment he walked through that door, I could tell he was in trouble. He said to me, "Mr. Steins, we almost didn't make it. My father died 2 days after the cards. He would never see them." "Come on," I said. "You're a man. One day or the other, every one of us must go home. Here," I grabbed the cards. "Here, look at your father and thank God for the time he was given on this earth." We went through them together. He looked at them in silence, and after the third one, the tear went slowly down his cheek. But at the same time, I was watching him carefully. Something started to happen as he saw his father there with himself, his brothers and sisters, and all the little grandchildren. He began to smile. "That's it, brother. That's it. Smile at your father. Smile at the world." When he left out of here, I thought of him going to his house somewhere in New Brighton field that day with the little mothers in black because a man had died. I saw my cards passing from hand to hand. I saw hands wipe away tears, and then the first timid little smile. You must understand one thing. We own nothing except ourselves. This world and its laws allows us nothing except ourselves. There is nothing we can leave behind when we die except the memory of ourselves. I know what I'm talking about, friends. I had a father, and he died. Here he is. My father, that's him. Fought in the war, Second World War. Fought at Tobruk in Egypt. He fought in France so that this country and all the others could stay free. When he came back, they stripped him at the docks. His gun, his uniform, the dignity they allowed him for a few mad years because the world needed men to fight and be ready to sacrifice themselves for something called freedom. In return, they let him keep his scuffed tin and gave him a bicycle, size 28. I remember because it was too big for me. When he died, in a rotten old suitcase amongst some of his old rags, I found that photograph. That's all. That's all I have from him. Or this old lady, Mrs. Mata Halanga, used to stay in St. Goldger Street. You remember her husband was arrested? Tell you about it later. Come in! Come in! Woo, that's the end of that scene. just start asking the right questions. How important is our art? Is it worth $1 billion? Is it priceless? What do we need? Can we articulate where we stand? As an artist who has worked for small community theaters, headed a major regional theater, directed in almost every major theater in the country, directed several shows for the Broadway stage, directed for television, worked in the opera world, and now heads a small theater company here in Atlanta, I am here sharing my insight of what it's like out there in the field for the artist. And maybe if we keep talking, we can better solve our funding and sustainability challenges so that we will better preserve our artists and our institutions. What we do and what you do is not an act of frivolity in America. Creative thinking and creative expression are values worth more than gold, and we must protect these values as they are at the heart and foundation of which our country is built. If a scientist has an unproductive day in the lab, do we lose faith and retract his funding? No. Artists must be given the green light to try, the green light to attempt, the green light to explore. Young children must be reminded and encouraged to think creatively. Young playwrights must be rewarded for exploration and encouraged to stay at it and not be led down the road to write another failed reality show. A painter needs to be able to paint her canvas and her house as she raises her children. Here are some things that I've noticed along the way. Many actors trained for the stage are trying to find ways to navigate between the screen and the stage. They think they need both to survive. How can we help that artist? Healthy regional theaters should translate to healthier acting pools in communities and cities. Does the wealth in our institutions trickle down to the artist? I find that many large institutions have grown so huge in an effort to raise the dollars and market the art that there is a disconnect between the artist and those working to create an audience for the artist. Many staff members of theaters are so insulated that they couldn't tell you the name of the author of the play that they are trying to sell, much less tell you why the theater is producing the play. Another observation. It's hard sometimes to tell the difference between commercial theater and nonprofit theater. The nonprofit world receives government dollars, thereby allowing us to ask tougher questions through our art. And in the nonprofit, shouldn't all taxpayers be encouraged to sit in the seats? It has become increasingly more difficult to get a Broadway show up these days. It's almost a miracle every time it happens. And at one point, I cast a music mogul in a Broadway show because I found him to be the best available actor for the role in the country, and I thought he could put butts in the seat. Many of those people who hadn't ever seen a play. They came to see Diddy and left having been introduced to Lorraine Hansberry. But now, one star is not enough. You need 3, 4, 5, 6. So it takes longer to put a show together, having to satisfy the concerns of the producers and investors, yet all the while staying true to your artistic convictions.